people asking square foot rates, square metre rates for new build or refurbishment, doesn't matter, and applying those rates principles to their own projects. Now, this is the danger with that. If you've worked out what your rate is, then that's great. But if you don't know what your rate is and you're using someone else's, that's massive, massive risk. Just because Johnny Developer can buy new build rates for 90 quid a square metre, square foot, £100 a square foot, that's been doing it 30 years with established supply chain, established suppliers, established trades, established business experience, does not mean that you can do that too. You can't go do a week, 2 week course and then achieve the same rates as someone that's been in the game for 30, 40 years. It's just not going to happen. You need to have them skills and experience to do that. So using a Facebook rate or someone else's rate is very, very dangerous. Using rates for new builds, for extension is fine, but you've got to work out what your rates are. You've got to look at geography, your access to supply chain, your skills, knowledge and experience, what you can buy gear for, what you can buy labour for, what your prelims are going to be. Your prelims are going to be different to the next guys. Your prelims are going to be different to somebody else, even in the same town. My prelim rates are going to be higher than the next guys or lower than the next guys. House bashers that are putting them up for 40, 50 pound a square foot. Self-builders doing it for 90. You could go back, don't use these rates. You can't use them unless you've worked it out yourself and that you know and understand that you can do the work for that rate. You must understand what your own rates are and how you've arrived at it. I often do a check price exercise on every job that we price up to find out what it works back to. So we'll price up a piece of work and then I'll work a rate back from that price, not the other way around. It's not just okay to say no, it's a must. This coming off the back of where we're at just now. Next week we have our next 3-month intake of students looking to make more profit from their refurbishment projects. So that's going to take all my energy this week and all my time preparing for that. I've also got a property purchase, got a property offer and negotiation we're trying to get to purchase, also on the table, which needs to be done this week. All the while, other business opportunities are still coming flying in. Like flying in. Can you do me this refurb? Can we get on with this refurb? I need a quote for this, I need a quote for that. Got this opportunity for you. Do you want to be in this JV? Now, no one likes turning work down, and I get that. But sometimes you have to turn it down to be in service to your current clients and your current commitments. It's a hard thing to do, to say no. Say no to opportunity. Say no to anything really, particularly if you're a people pleaser like me. You just don't like doing it, we don't like saying no. But remember this, if you do struggle with this, remember this. Whenever you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Whenever you say yes to something, you say no to something else. So the client's hounding me for a quote just now, they have to wait. So if that's you watching this, you're not going to get it this week. It has to wait. Because if I don't do that, and I give it a little bit of attention, and I give the preparation for my training next week a little bit of attention, and I give the property offer a little bit of attention, maybe I give my training this afternoon a little bit of attention, and my training on Thursday a little bit of attention, and none of it's good, it's just okay, I'm not in service to my existing clients. So just remember, whenever you're saying yes to something, particularly something new, you are saying no to something else. So many people come to us in my training groups, on courses, whenever I'm working with them, just maybe on a call even, and say, I want to do this project, but I just think it's beyond my capability. It's too big for me. Now, this sort of, I'm going to say this mindset and your thought process about a project being too big. Morning, everybody. Morning, Lynn. Morning, Dennis. Morning, Anthony. This project being too big is very, you're limiting your own development when you're doing that. You're creating the fear inside yourself. You're doing that to you. Now, what you must do when we have these thought processes is, these thoughts are going to come, by the way. You can't stop the thoughts from coming. It's how you respond to them. So when that thought comes in of this is too big, ask yourself what you mean by that. What do you mean by it's too big? Usually that's followed with, well, what if I get it wrong? Okay, but now we're drilling into the detail of the fear. So what if you get it wrong? What does wrong mean? What do you mean when you say it can go wrong? Really challenge your own thoughts. What if it goes wrong? What do you mean by go wrong? Do you mean spend too much, take too long? Whatever that thing is, let's look at that and then meet that challenge in advance. So it might be that this project is a bit too big, the high level fear. Then we're going to come down to, what if I overspend? Then we're going to come to, well, how can I possibly manage that spend better? How can I work out what the spend is going to be better instead of just guessing, instead of using a square meter rate or a percentile rate or a formulaic approach or a cheat sheet or a spreadsheet or a fucking deal analyzer? We don't use them. So let's not use any of those approaches and do the work and actually go and do the work and work out what the build is. You cannot work out refurbishment work without pricing up the refurbishment work. It's a mantra that I live by. You can't price up the work without pricing up the work. You've got to know what the work is. A refurb is not a thing that you can price up. You can price up the elemental parts of the work that form the refurb, but not a refurb per se. A refurb doesn't cost X amount of pounds. The elemental pieces of work that form that project, they're the things that cost X. So you need to work out which elemental pieces of work are going to form part of that refurbishment. Getting over that fear, when that fear comes, it's how you respond to that fear. And really drill into the detail of it. It's too big, it's not good enough. What do you mean it's too big? So what? What does it mean? Are we talking about price, time, access to supply chain, suppliers, materials increase? All those fears, let's drill into those and see how we can handle those fears in advance of them becoming a thing. Because remember, a fear hasn't happened yet. This is just one possible outcome that we are imagining in the future. Maybe you have done a property training, maybe you've read a book, maybe you've bought a deal analyzer of someone's ads. Maybe you've listened to a podcast. I don't know. However you're pricing up a refurb. Your current approach is likely costing you money. Your current approach is likely not profitable. And that's what we do here. Train property investors how to make more profit from their refurbishment projects. If you know someone that needs to hear this morning, do share it as well. Because this is important. Know this. You cannot buy a refurb. It's not something that's for sale. Just like a holiday is not for sale, or a car or a house. A refurb is not something that you can buy. You buy the elemental pieces of work that form that refurb, just like when you buy a holiday, you buy a destination, the method of travel, the airport. When you buy a house, you buy detached, semi, you buy it in a certain street, in a certain town, in a certain number of bedrooms. Same with a car, you buy makes, models, brands. When you buy a refurb, you're buying elemental pieces of work. So to ask for a price for a refurb is crazy. It doesn't exist, it's not a product that you can buy. I'm going back to basics this morning because it's an inquiry that came in yesterday. No, it wasn't, day before. I lie, yes, day before yesterday. Rightmove link, can you give me a price to refurb this? Not a thing. It's not something that you can buy. You have to break that down. You have to break that refurb down into elemental pieces of work. Even if you're buying this service from a one-stop shop construction company like mine, you'd come to me and say, Paul, I need this refurb. That still needs to be broken down into pieces of work to give you prices for each elemental piece of work, which forms the refurb. Just like when we go on holiday, just like when we go to the supermarket. You can't buy a weekly shop. You buy the products in the trolley from a different supermarket. Different supermarkets will be a different price. Getting a grip of this is absolutely critical if you want to make more profit from your refurb projects. In fact, if you want to make any profit from your refurb projects. Can't price this up using bullshit square meter rates. Formulaic approaches, sizes, price per room, all this bullshit that I see. You can't do it. You're going to get stung if you're operating in this manner. Then your program of works is critical. How much time is it going to take? How long will that project take you when you've added up all of those pieces of work to give you one overall action period? Remember this, it's not the tradesmen that are going to let you down if you're operating on this approach. It will be, 9 times out of 10 this is, if you're managing it properly, it will be the transitional period between trades. So that gap between sparky finishing and plastering starting, that's where you lose most time on a project. Assuming you're hiring the right people. And then your build cost. Working that build cost out based upon the other two things. So getting your standard and your period right in the first place to give you an output. That output is your build cost. And then managing and executing that project. We have a 3-step framework for this. To deliver a project in this manner. There it is. Those 3 things form our boots on the ground training. I want to share a bit of a tale from yesterday. Tale of woe. Yesterday I get a random inquiry come over on Messenger. A potential customer, looking for, in fact I'll rewind a little bit actually. In the past, people have come over to me and asked me to do refurbishment work, conversions, whatever it is, in my construction company for them as a client. And I've kind of been of the mind that, well, if they don't send me a spec, I'm not doing it. If they don't send me the information that I need, I'm not going to do it. And that has led to a little bit of arrogance, I have to admit. Now, because of that, this last week, I thought, you know what, I need to do something about this. So let's try and help these clients a little bit more in giving them what they need in order for me to be able to work with them. So yesterday, I finalised what I've called the spec builder, the specification builder. This is not for sale, it's not for you to have, it's not for me to send you, so please don't message me asking me to send you a copy, it's not for that purpose. This spec builder is a questionnaire. It's a questionnaire that when someone sends in an inquiry to my construction company, I can send over the questionnaire to them as a potential client to be able to fill in and send me back. And it asks things like, what's your exit strategy? What's the address? What works to anticipate happening? Have you got this? Have you got that? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Do you have this report? Do you have that report? And it's a real collation portal database for people to upload data to. It creates a folder on my system for them to be able to put their stuff into. And that stuff will be photos, floor plans, all the information that I need to start formulating a quotation for that potential client. And I thought this was a really amazing piece of tool. I thought it was an amazing tool for clients to be able to use. So what I immediately did was I jumped on a quick call with my mastermind guys, with the groups that I'm working with at my highest level, and asked them for feedback. So we all jumped on a call. Andy's on there now, Andy's watching now. We all jumped on a quick call and we ran through the form, and everyone was like, this is great, it's going to be a game changer, let's do it. Can we get a copy? So those guys have a copy of this form to be able to share. Send it over to the client, hoping that, you know, this document is going to help this potential client in being able to communicate with me a little bit better, being able to get across what they want a little bit better, and they're going to have to do the work. So I send over this form and I get ghosted. I'm a bit confused. I'm thinking, why have they not filled this form in? So I follow up. I've sent you that form over. Do you want to get that filled in so you can get it back to me? Well, I'm just looking for a ballpark. I haven't really got time to do all that. I was fucking blown away. Like, truly blown away. So, well, a ballpark, I can give you a ballpark, but it's not going to mean anything. I just need it to secure my lending. And I was like, what? I don't get this. I don't get why you want to do that. I'm giving you the tools to go do and provide me with the things that I need to be able to serve you as a client. And you're not prepared to do that. You're not prepared to take half an hour out of your day to formulate a plan and start working with me, to formulate a plan, start working with me, and get what it is that you're buying from me, or what it is that you want to buy from me. And I was truly fucking stunned. Like, I don't understand it. People, please understand, you cannot buy a refurbishment project. It's not for sale. You can't buy a holiday. It's not for sale. You can't buy a car or a house. Those things are not for sale. You can buy a 3-bed detached property in Smith Street, Cleethorpes, but you can't buy a house. You've got to know what it is that you want from that house. Same for a car, same for a holiday, same for anything, same for a refurb. You can't buy a refurb. It's not for sale. You've got to know and understand what those elemental pieces of work that you are buying that form that refurb. You've got to know this, or you are going to get stung. Listen, I could have said to this lady, it's going to be 50 grand. And she could have lined up her borrowing in order to do that. But what does that even mean? That 50k is not based on anything old at all. At all. We could get into the project and it could cost 20 and she still pays 50. We could get into the project and I realise it's going to be 80 and not 50. Either way, she loses. She loses either way. So just do the work is my message this morning. Please, please, just do the work. Whenever you're asking builders and trades to do work, you've got to know what it is that you're buying. Or you're buying nothing. You're buying like nothing, not even an idea, because you're not communicating that idea. I made a post yesterday about working with trades and builders on your projects, and the quickest way to falling out with those guys is not meeting their expectations. Now, what happens generally speaking is a tradesman will come on your project, or a builder will come on your project, they'll do a piece of work, and then there's an expectation of when you'll be paid. Now, for some guys, this is finishing work on the Thursday, invoice the Friday to be paid the same day. If that's their expectation and you've agreed to that, you must meet it. The post I made yesterday was about that very thing, and there was guys, other trades jumping on there and saying, well, they can wait till Monday, they can wait till Monday, which is grossly fucking unfair. If I said they'll get it on the Friday. And yes, they could probably wait. And yes, it's not going to impact their lives too much. The point of the post was doing what you said you would do and meeting expectations of the people that are working on your behalf. So if you've agreed with someone that you're going to come in and pay them, they're going to do some work, they're going to invoice you, and then you pay them in a period, if that's a day, an hour, a week, whatever that is, whatever that payment term is that you've arranged, you must stick to that. You must stick to that. And that's not because of people being skinned and all the comments that I got, oh, they need to get the bag of glue for the weekend, or they need to go and get on the piss at the weekend. That's not for that. Imagine this. If you were in a job, you worked for an employer, and your payday is Friday and your wages don't go in on Friday. Yes, you're going to survive till Monday. But how are you going to feel all weekend? You're going to feel shit. You're going to feel like you're getting knocked. You're going to feel like you're not getting paid. Start creating stress. Start creating anxiety. You're going to start looking to create an outcome. If you're a trades or builder listening to this, do me a favour, tell me what your thoughts are on this. Or have you experienced being knocked? Have you experienced being paid a day, a week, a month late, and how that actually feels? I know it feels shit. I've been there myself. It's fucking awful. You know, when your wages don't go in, when your invoice doesn't get paid on time, it's a horrible feeling. It really is. Because you start creating outcomes that haven't happened yet. You start creating potential negative outcomes in the future that haven't happened, and that creates a real sort of negative feeling. It can impact your day, your weekend, and your business, in fact. It'll impact your mood of you and those around you if you're not paid on time. So please, property investors, I'm talking to you this morning, whatever it is that you agree, just make sure you stick to that. If you agree to pay a guy on 24-hour terms, then just do that. And if that's not for you, if that doesn't work, don't agree to that term. Say to the guy, look, I need 7 days to pay. Once you've invoiced me, take 7 days, take 14 days, take 21 days, whatever that period is. Whatever the period is that you agree, that's what you must stick to. Really, really important, this payment terms. So really get a grip of this and agree in advance of guys starting. That way you'll avoid any fallout, you'll avoid any dispute, you'll avoid those phone calls at weekends. Where's my fucking money? You don't want that. You don't want that on your projects. Tradesmen don't want to make that call, and you don't want to receive it. So we can avoid all of that in advance by agreeing a set of terms and sticking to it. Really, really important. And making sure that the process that you need, I'll talk about this a little bit later, I've got a few more minutes. The process that's involved, the process that's required from you as a client in order to make that payment, that must be communicated as well. If you've got an internal business system whereby some work needs to be signed off before a payment is made, then the trades and builders need to know that, so that they're not left holding the baby and left thinking, well, when's my money coming? I've invoiced, I expect to be paid. They don't know what this background procedure may well be within your business. So you must communicate that as well. I want to share this morning, I'm not going to say a consult, it was an inquiry that came in on Saturday. A guy looking to get involved with one of our training programs. Not the one that's starting this week, the boots on the ground training, the one-day training. I went through a few things of what it covered and what it's about, what's involved. And this chap said, well, I'm not in the construction industry. I'm a property investor. And it kind of took me back a little bit. We was chewing the fat and we was backwards and forwards, and he comes out with, well, I'm just a property investor, I'm not a builder. Well, as a property investor operating in this space, carrying out refurbishment projects or adding value projects, whatever it is that you're doing, if you're engaging with tradesmen and builders, you're in the construction industry. You're a part of it. Like it or not. So the rules do apply. The rules I'm talking about, obviously, are the CDM regulations. Everybody's now going to go to sleep or disconnect or stop listening. CDM regulations, Construction Design and Management Regulations, 2015. The construction industry is governed by these, and you as property investors engaging with trades and builders, by default, become a commercial client under that set of regulations. If your intention, and that's the key word, the intention is to generate income or make profit from that project. If that is your intention, you by default become a commercial client under the regulations. And therefore, you have a set of duties that you must discharge to be compliant and legal and running proper projects. Not only that, keeping you guys safe, planning out the work properly, etc, etc. There's loads and loads and loads of information on the HSE's website. You do not need to do a training course with me to find out what your duties are under the law. You can go under hse.gov.org or .gov.uk, something like that. Just type in duties of commercial client. Type that into Google and it'll take you to a little cheat sheet, crib sheet, download thing, so that you know that you're covered. That you're covered compliantly, you're running a compliant project. Because once again, you are in the construction industry, like it or not. That's the industry that you're working in. I go so far as to say, as the property, as an industry, does that exist? I'm not even sure whether that's a thing, the property industry. If you're a property investor, your intention is to generate income or make profit through adding value exercise, you by default become a part of the construction industry. That's the key takeaway from today. This morning's video is it's going to be something we teach today. So it's day 2 of our 5-day in-person training today. Yesterday was amazing. We went through specification, how to write it, its advantages, etc, etc, how to start building that supply chain for your projects in order to make more profit. But today, this morning should I say, can you just check this quote for me? This is something that comes up common in my coaching groups, on Facebook generally. Can you just check this quote for me? Now, I'll tell you a typical one I see. I've just had a price off X. I've had a price off Mr. Builder of X to do X. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all the information that you get. And people jump on and say, oh, that's too dear. That's too expensive, that's a rip-off. Now, without any context, that price that someone's reviewing or checking means absolutely fuck all. You don't know whereabouts in the country it is. You don't know what type of business they're being engaged with. You don't know the size of the company that's being engaged with. You don't know the delivery mechanics that's being engaged with. You don't know the prelim cost of the company that's being asked for this price. So to give a comment like, can you check me this price, and someone say that's a rip-off, is utter horseshit. You can't possibly know whether it's a rip-off or too expensive without all that other underpinning information required to work out whether it is expensive or not. When I see people trying to price work on Facebook, it's like a game of bingo. An entertaining game of bingo. Somebody will say, how much for an extension? And somebody will put 20 grand, 25 grand, 30 grand, 35 grand. Until someone shouts house and goes, brilliant, 25, that meets my expectation, I'll have that one. And it's like, I shake my head in disbelief, genuinely. So when we're asking people to check quotes for us, look at rates, look at prices, it's got to have some context behind it. You've got to know geography first and foremost, what the spec is, what the standard is, what length of time it is, what type of business has been asked. Is this a sole trader or is this a limited company with 10 vans on the road? An office space? Because those rates are going to be massively different. And one would expect the service levels to also be different, given the two extremes of inquiry. Day four of our three-month next intake of making more profit from your refurbishment projects. That three-month program starts with 5 days in the classroom. As I just showed you, we are on day 4 today, and today we are concentrating on compliance. So this morning session, our safety consultant is coming in to run through all things relative to CDM, the Construction Design and Management Regulations, the Health and Safety at Work Act, working at height, PPE, all that stuff that most property investors always ask that question. You know, what should I be doing? What affects me? What impacts me on my projects? What are my obligations? What are the legalities behind the project I'm about to run? What is a principal contractor? What is a principal designer? What is a commercial client? What's a domestic client? All of that stuff we'll be covering this morning. Then this morning, once that's complete, we go out to site. We're going to go and look at one of our potential projects that we've got in the pipeline. This potential project that's in the pipeline is a barn conversion, which we're going to run through how we stacked it up, how we priced it up, some considerations relative to compliance, relative to safety, some of the key considerations that we must make when looking at a project like that. Type of things that we've got to consider is access, security. And when I talk about access, I don't just mean into the site, we're talking into and up onto the building. How's the scaffold going to work? We're looking at scaffold design. We'll be looking at considerations when it comes to designing that scaffold, the ground conditions, all of that stuff, utilities, and how we even started pricing that thing up. The whole building's 580 square meters in total. So, people that go at a thing like that and they just throw a shitty rate at it, a square metre rate at it, and just go, 580 square metres, it must be times something. That's no way to approach a project. And what we're going to show the guys this afternoon is how we tackled that, how we tackled pricing that up, and how we stacked up the deal in its entirety. We don't own it just yet. We are hoping to hear back from that tomorrow, but we've still got access to the site, so we'll be able to walk the guys around that. What I want to share with you today is you guys that are looking for ballpark figures for things. Ballpark figures for refurbishment projects. I see it regular, just looking for some help in getting a ballpark together for this refurbishment, even a conversion. I hear that as well. Now, the thing I want to help you with this morning is that approach is setting yourself up to fail. I'll say that again. That approach, ballpark approach, you set yourself up to fail. Because consider this. You ask me as the builder for a ballpark figure. I either want the work or I don't want the work. If I want the work, I'm going to give you a number that either meets or beats your expectation in order to win the work. But it doesn't mean anything. The number means nothing. It's meaningless, completely meaningless, until we have a schedule that works, a program that works, a specification. It doesn't mean anything at all. So all that ballpark figure does is gets my foot in the door. And if I don't want the work, I shall give you a ballpark figure that is going to make you go, I'm not going with him. Which may make you pull out the deal, because you might then think, well, there's no room in this. This is no deal. There's no fat in this for me. there's no profit, there's no margin. And so therefore asking for ballpark figures does not help you in any way, shape or form. It does not. The only way to price up refurbishment work is to price up refurbishment work. Line by line items. You've got to know what elemental pieces of work that form that refurbishment are and price up them. Price up them line items, and that will then form your high-level refurbishment label that you're using. The word refurbishment cannot be priced up. You cannot buy a refurbishment. You cannot buy a holiday. You cannot buy a house. As we've been discussing this week, you cannot even buy a sandwich until you know what's in it. So if you're looking for prices for refurbishment, that is going to be the first thing you need to get past. There is no such thing. It's not for sale. You can't buy it. What you've got to buy is the elemental pieces of work that form that refurb. Just like a holiday, just like a house, just like a car.